Hi everyone, Nealay Patel here. I'm the owner, designer, and educator at Silver Silk and More, and I am joined by Deb Floros, an expert designer, and her and I have teamed up together to create a list of items that you should do if you're feeling uninspired or just need some extra creativity in your life. And we're calling this the 10 jewelry making mantras to live by. So, Deb, you are the expert designer, and I love everything that you've ever come up with for jewelry design. So I'm glad that we get to collaborate on this project together. Real quickly, could you explain to us what the 10 jewelry making mantras means to you and your definition of it, and how you came up with some of these mantras, and what the mantra number two, because we're on challenge number two, is?
Well, thank you for having me, Nealay. I love collaborating with you. It's been a blast. So the 10 jewelry making mantras are really about when you sit down and you sometimes feel like, I don't really know what I want to do today. You might have lots of beads and things around you, but nothing's coming to you. Um, these are things that after I sort of thought about it a bit, I realized I sort of do this automatically. I
Mhm.
kind of go through this checklist of things that might inspire a piece of jewelry. So I think what this can do for folks is when you have that moment, you sit down and it's like deer in the headlights. I have beads, I have stuff. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to start. You've got some challenges and some options to get you started on something really fun and to stretch your experience. So if there's a few things there in some of the later mantras that are probably a little off the beaten path for some of the folks that are just maybe getting started with jewelry making, or maybe folks that have made jewelry for a while and they're kind of afraid to do some things like
Mhm.
this. I think it pushes you out of your comfort zone and I don't know, maybe get you some experience in something that you want to do from that point on.
Absolutely. I feel like I fit into that second category because I've made a lot of designs up to this point, and I think, doing the tutorials and stuff for Silver Silk has sort of helped push me to continue to create. But you do get to that point where you just feel like you've made everything that you possibly could. But really, I think these mantras, at least for me, have helped me to really look at, taking these different techniques and what I enjoy doing, which is what I've realized because part of this journey is self-discovery, is, mixing different techniques together, mixing different materials together, and to be able to come up with a aha moment for your jewelry design that's just, I don't know, it just makes sense to you and becomes a form of self-expression.
Yeah.
So, and this is a huge part of what Silver Silk and More is as my company. And part of my messaging and my branding is to help elevate and push design forward. So, I'm really glad that we did collaborate on this project together. And, to push that even further is coming up with these challenges that we can then implement to our community, the Silver Silk Silkies,
Mhm.
and to make it a themed event. And so each month, if you use the hashtag Silver Silk Mantra in your jewelry design post for following these mantras and posting your design, we're giving away some goodies at the end of each month to then celebrate that mantra. So I encourage all of you guys out there to get involved. We're just using the same hashtag month to month, Silver Silk Mantra, and you can post whatever that challenge is for the month.
Yeah.
So, speaking of, we've got challenge number two
Yeah.
that you have demonstrated in this mantra journey that we're doing. So, why don't you tell us about what that design is, and maybe like we'll take things up a notch, and I'm gonna take that challenge.
Maybe. Maybe.
Maybe meaning I'm gonna have to do it because
You're
we're
doing it.
here, we're doing it.
You're totally doing it. So the mantra is layers, stacks, and multiples. And I feel like maybe this is a little bit of a softball mantra. So I think we often think about things singularly. So we think about a single pair of earrings or a single bracelet, a single necklace. But gosh, layering and bracelet stacks and multiple earrings are really kind of all the rage right now.
Hmm.
But frankly, they've been all the rage off and on for forever. I mean, go back
Hmm.
and look at, old fashioned magazines or old TV shows, and you'll see people wearing multiples, bracelet stacks, multiple necklaces. Even if you don't have double pierced ears, you can do like a little ear cuff or something
Hmm.
little ear climber, something like that. So I think this is really just about multiplying your thought process around your design. So if you find something that you really like, I say the more the merrier. Let's multiply it and let's do multiples. And it could be multiples that you could wear separately and interchange, or it could be multiples within one piece. So a multi-strand bracelet, a multi-strand necklace. The piece I made was a multi-strand necklace because I love multi-strand necklaces.
Absolutely.
All right, so this is the piece that I made for our mantra, and it is a double-stranded necklace. I chose this amazing capture chain. Nealay, I don't remember the name of this color, but this is my favorite color by far of silver silk.
It looks like it's red, Deb, I think.
I
Might just
think
be a red.
I think it's red, but I think it's like, to me it's like a corally red, which
Ooh.
I heart coral,
Mm.
like it's so good. And when I pulled this out of the package, I immediately had this like ding in the back of my head because I remembered I had these little cute charms, which I was able to find two of. So these could have been a pair of earrings, but I thought, oh gosh, I could do a multi strand necklace and use both of my charms. Um,
Mm.
I also had these fun connectors, and thought, well, gosh, if I'm going to do a double strand necklace and make it kind of a statement piece,
Hmm.
why don't I connect these and put my little charmy at the end? Um,
Oh,
so
that's perfect. And it
I
looks like, oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, it looks like you just kind of connected everything together with some jump rings.
Yeah. So one of my design tips, or one of the things I like to do, is wherever possible, I like to double up my jump rings. So I
Mm.
don't know if you can tell that from
I
um
see it now that you lifted it up. Yeah, I
yeah.
love that.
So it just adds a little more substance. So not that one jump ring is wrong or bad, but there's just something about adding a little more substance with double jump rings. Um, so that's what I did here, and I gotta say, um, this design was made possible with your connector pieces.
Yay.
These so I like, I don't say things because I just, want to appease the person that's hearing it, but I'll tell you what, finding good end caps and end pieces and clasps for jewelry is still an area that I think jewelry makers are underserved with. And so when I see something good and I have an opportunity to use something good, um, I jump all over it. And I feel like your end pieces are super high quality and super easy to work with. And they are really beautiful. I mean, they just add such a nice touch to the end of your jewelry piece.
Thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. And I put a lot of time and effort into making sure that the product and the quality is always top notch. So having that Affirmation is wonderful, and you were able to make use of the double strand end caps for
Yes.
this multi-layered piece. So these aren't necessarily separate, but they do add that layered effect for a necklace that's still super very easy to wear, and you can throw it on and be out the door. Or you can stack this with other necklaces because it kind of has
Yeah.
that cohesive look together. And you could find some other metal necklaces, chains, or what have you to give yourself what they call a neck mess.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think, this is one way to do it. So some folks are really turned off by having to put on multiple strands and, link up multiple strands. This is an easy layered look to just, it's one hook of the clasp. So using your double end caps
Hmm.
was just super easy. All I did was attach a split ring, and then I did a lobster claw clasp on the other side. Simple, easy, looks nice in the back. And my thought too was, yeah, you could layer a longer piece around this guy,
Hmm.
or you could add a choker as a third layer up at your neckline. So I'm a big
Good
choker
idea.
fan. So that would be really cool with this. Maybe just like a plain silver piece, or we're going to see in a later mantra a choker piece that would be kind of fun with, some of the same color tones. So we'll chat about that when the time comes. One thing I wanted to just maybe give the Silkies and others some thoughts around. So one thing to think about when you're doing a multi-strand necklace is how it's going to lay. And if you want a neck mess, or you want your piece to sort of overlap and sort of be, more of a chunky look, that's cool. But if you don't want it to overlap, you have to measure. So in
Hmm.
my case, I had this little charm. I wanted it to I wanted it to have some space so it could move around in there. So I literally laid out my piece. I used a ruler. Got to have a ruler. And I also laid it out just in front of me. And I measured again. What's that saying? Measure.
Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure that I didn't waste any of this beautiful material, and I could just literally grab your end findings and pop those on and go. So I suggest that for folks, if you're going to do a multi-strand piece, two, three, or more, if you're bold enough. Granted, you need some more end findings, but you want to do multiple strands. Sit down, put your design out there. You could use a bead board. I think that's one way, because some of those bead boards have a mechanism to do
Hmm.
multiple strands. Something to think about there. And then one thing that I do, maybe not everybody can do this, but something I do is I have a dress form. So if anybody has followed me or seen
Hmm.
my live shows, I have a dress form, and I've actually named her. She's my studio assistant. Her name is Emma. She does
I
not
was gonna
sass me.
say you have a name for her, don't you? I love it.
So
Um,
I'm a goof, but
I love it.
I lay my piece. I put my pieces on Emma before
Hmm.
I ever finish it. So before these beautiful end pieces go on, I want to make sure it lays right. So
Gotcha.
I pop it on Emma, and I call that letting the design percolate a little bit.
Hmm.
I'll put it on her. I'll get up. I'll go, grab a soda or something, and walk around, take a look. Sometimes I sleep on it, and if in the morning I still wake up and I still like the way it lays and the way that it looks,
Hmm.
then I pop on the findings and I call it done. So That's just something I think we should think about, especially if you're making a piece for a gift or you're making something for sale. So you want to be cautious of how those pieces come together and how they lay. So those are just my tips, but I had a great time making this, and I actually wore something today that this is going to match. So when I turn this over to you, I'm going to put it on. But before I turn it over to you, Nealay, I have to ask you the question: how are
Mm-hmm.
you going to respond to this mantra?
Ooh, good question. I'll take that as a direct challenge, if you will. I have thought about this design, and I am going to construct a multi-layered necklace. I'm actually going to go. This is the over-the-top challenge for me because I don't go in half-assed. I'm going to go in like full force and really make something that's really unique, right? So yeah, exactly. Um, I'm going to do a triple strand necklace with a back area that's actually braided chain, and it doesn't have a clasp. It's just kind of, it's going to be one of those I just throw on. So what I thought I would do is I would actually flip the camera over, and I'm going to show you the board that I'm going to be working on and really take you through not just my design process, because that is an important part of this design of this project to begin with, but also some of the construction that's involved into making it. So hopefully our silkies out there will be inspired, feel a little bit challenged, and just want to try and make something that looks cool or follow the instructions to this design. So let me flip my camera on real quick. And we're going to do solo layout here. All right, so I'm going to be using a multitude of tools. And this is like, I sort of like to start with the tools whenever I make my design, just to introduce what I'm using. But I have my notorious 4 tools from Weber's here that I like to use all the time. I got my round nose pliers, a pair of chain nose pliers, and I've got a pair of nylon jaw pliers. I'll use these to straighten out any craft wire that I'm going to be using for this demonstration. And I've got a pair of wide nose pliers that have been dipped in Tool Magic, which does 2 things. I can grip my finding, because my findings, as you saw on your project, are quite smooth and can slip pretty easily because of how smooth they are. But the rubber coating or on the flat nose pliers here prevent it from shifting and moving whenever I'm crimping. So it just gives a really great grip. Also, whenever I press down on it, it's not going to cause any abrasion or nicks or marks on my beautiful little finding there. It's going to stay nice and smooth. So that's why I like to use these really wide pliers that have been, again, dipped in Tool Magic. And I get my Tool Magic from Softflex Company. It's a great place to buy it. There are many resources out there for such things, but I like to, send the business back to my friends if I can. I also have a pair of Lindstrom cutters, and I use these for everything, for beading wire, for knitted wire, cords, craft wire, you name it. It's cut everything, except for memory wire. I don't like to use it on memory wire.
Oh, that's
That's
a
a bad
no-no.
idea.
That's a no-no.
So, having said that, those are the tools that I'm going to be using, and I'm going to show you the 3 chains that I'm going to be working with. So, these are like colors that speak to my soul. I've got Ember, which is a new color, and the reason why I named this Ember is because it's got a orange tinsel, holographic tinsel, that's been knitted over a gold ball chain. And then knitted over both of those things is antique copper wire. So you get this really fiery chain. I know this camera work might not do it the best justice there, but really in natural light, this just looks absolutely stunning. As does Teal, which is a silver ball chain that has holographic green tinsel that's been knitted over it. And then knitted over both of those things is seafoam colored wire. And this sort of effect, the colors vibrate off of each other and it creates a teal chain. So I've just called it teal pearlesque chain. And then in the middle here, I've got fern, which is a gunmetal colored ball chain that has sort of a chartreuse color that's been knitted over it. Because it has that dark underlying color, it kind of gives a darker, sort of earthier green moss color to it. So yeah, this palette is just a very like natural, beautiful palette, and I think the teal really just gives a lovely pop of color.
It's gorgeous.
Thank you. So I'm excited to make this, I think, just based off of the colors that I'm using. So measure twice, cut once, right? That's the idea here. And so what I thought I would do is I'm just going to make a simple 3-layered necklace here and cut it at a distance that I think would be a good length. And I'm going to have it to where it's pretty stacked here at the bottom. I've just laid it out on my table and just to kind of line things up and just to make sure that these are kind of, you know, falling in the correct space here. One thing I'm going to do immediately so that I don't lose my spot is I'm just going to string this right through some craft wire. And the craft wire is going to help me for 2 reasons. Actually, I need to go 3 of the beads in the ball chain above. So we do that. It's going to help me sustain everything in place and just keep everything nice and organized. So that way, whenever I trim the wire later on, nothing will shift or move. And it's also going to help me with my crimping because I can actually use this as sort of a vise to then, you know, put in all of those wires at once without having to kind of fumble through. Because the triple strand end cap can be a little bit intimidating, I think, trying to, you know, crimp with it. So let me see here. I'm just
That's
gonna.
a great tip, Nealay. That is a really good tip. I'm
Oh,
gonna try
thank you.
that.
Yeah, definitely. So I just recommend, you know, just kind of going through and then trimming it. And also, don't forget to shake the wire out because you don't want it to twist and turn as it's being crimped. So just I would just say shake the wire out, if you will, just to make sure that it's going to lay correctly. Got to shake it off.
Get off.
Okay. So it looks like it wants to lay nicely there. So I'm just going to string it right through. This is one of the most fascinating things about the knitted wire because you can cut this right now and it's not going to fray. But you can see that I've got some pretty good layers going here and I know exactly where I need to cut it because I've pre-strung it. So I'm going to do that right now. And I'm going to cut about 3 of the ball chains right above where that wire is. Okay, and then I'm just going to lift it up just to make sure that nothing is twisting and turning. And it looks like it's going to stay pretty nice and level and straight. So what I can do is kind of separate these. And because I'm using multiple colors, it is going to be important that you do kind of pre-string it because you can keep the colors nice and organized. So I'm going to grab my end cap here. And I'm just going to go ahead and insert all of those strands right in with ease. And then I'm just going to crimp right over them.
Oh my gosh, that makes it so easy with the wire.
It really does. It really, this tip occurred to me much later in life. I was like, I need to, like, when I had that self-discovery, I was just like, oh my goodness. And then, like, of course, my second thought was, I need to tell everybody.
I wish I had known this tip when I used the triple one.
Right.
Now
right.
I got to go back and try it for sure.
Absolutely. It's very valuable. One thing before I get into all the connections here for what I did for the second half of this piece, you can actually open up the end cap just a little bit more to help it fit the chains in with ease as well. So just by opening up the end cap, I can actually put these in a lot quicker. As you can see, and then I'm ready to basically crimp.
Easy, easy peasy.
Easy peasy. Okay, give a good tug, make sure that nothing's fallen out, and then just remove that wire and you've got your necklace that's been fully crimped and everything. Now, let me explain the second half of this design because this is where it gets complicated and a little bit challenging. I had this awesome idea that I thought for the back I could take this braided chain, and this is just a sample because I'm actually going to use the colors from this necklace to braid a chain, and I'm going to use it for the back of my necklace. So later, whenever you see it on my little neck form that I have, you'll see that the back is designed as well as the front. This is where I'm really pushing the envelope of my design capabilities, is really thinking outside of the box in format. Now, I know that this is a later challenge as well, which I'll just come up with something else by then. But I've got my 3 layers. I've established and accomplished my challenge number 2 for stacks and layers, but I'm going to push it a little extra, right? So this is a connector piece that you'll need to accomplish this. So here I have a piece of craft wire, and I'm just using 20 gauge wire from Softflex Company in gold. And I'm going to go ahead and connect my bead to the other end here first. So I've just got some, I think this is aquamarine, just round, 10 millimeter, 15 millimeter bead. It's kind of largish, but I think it would just be a nice stone accent to this palette that I'm using, something a little different because there's so much glitz going on with the pearlesque chain. I need to tone it down just a little bit elsewhere. So I'm going to create a wire wrap loop just by bending my wire at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to pick up my round nose pliers, insert it right in. I usually like to make my loops petite, so I kind of use the top half of my pliers. And you could certainly mark with a Sharpie where you prefer your loops to be. I sort of have this down pretty well at this point to where I can make these loops, in the dark and get it kind of the way that I want it to look. But after I've made my initial loop there, I can insert my component in. And I like to do the wire wrap loop just for security purposes. That way I don't have to worry about things falling out later. And it definitely helps to have a very good craft wire that is flexible to use and very forgiving on your fingers. The harder the craft wire, the more difficult and arduous this whole journey to finish this design would be. So I really recommend making sure that your craft wire is of high quality standard. So as you can see, I just coiled that right around, and at this point I can connect my top piece here to once I get my bead strung on. And I should say that for this top piece, I am using 5 chains here that I've basically stacked on top of each other. What I did was I just took a pair of pliers, and I got this finding from beadshop.com actually. And this is just one of those slider tubes. This is approximately an inch wide, inch long, and it's about 3 millimeters in width there. And I just opened it up with my pliers. This just makes it more comfortable for me to be able to slip in each chain. And I go about a bead of the chain into my finding here just to slide it down. So once I've done that, I just kind of close up the end and I've got a nice little finished edge there. And that's the edge that I'm going to be using to connect all this together. So I'll show you how those chains slide in whenever I've gotten this whole thing braided. But let me go ahead and make this loop.
I love those findings. Those are super fun.
They really are. I've never used them before prior to this. And then that idea just kind of came to me. It just, how stuff just kind of hits you at the most unexpected times. And I was like, you know, I could use that for capture chain, but I've never braided capture chain before. I've never braided 5 strands of capture chain before. How do I do this and how do I teach it to people? So my mind just kind of goes from one place to another to another.
The creative mind can't be explained.
Cannot be explained and shouldn't be explained, really. Just let them go with it because they're good at it, and then have them explain what their methodology was. All right. So I'm just going to work this little end around. The other thing I want to do is make sure that my loops match up so that this lays nice and flat. So I want it to be there. It looks like it's just a little bit off, which I can fix pretty easily here. There we go. So I just want it to lay nice and flat. So now I'm ready to braid this chain and then have it connect to this other end. So I'm going to turn my whole piece around here. Okay, so to do this, this is going to be a little bit, I'm going to go slow and then I'm going to go fast toward the end because we'll have learned it by then. So I'm going to start with my teal chain and I'm just going to basically weave it in and out between these other chains. So I'm going to go above this ember, below the fern, above that teal, and below the ember. So basically have woven it like you would a loom. And this, what I had wove with, what will turn into my last strand here. So I'm going to pick up the next one that's in the line here. So this will be the ember. And I'm going to go above the fern because that's what makes it braid, as you can see. Below the teal, above the other ember, and then below the next teal. And that becomes my next strand that I'll weave with. So I'm going to continue to do that for this whole thing, just starting the next one in line, which is the very, for this one on the right. Just weave up and down in between those next few chains.
The colors are so divine together.
It was just I just had to put it together because I was like, this is too good of an idea to like wait for another challenge.
And woven like that is wow. That's amazing. Looks amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I've not actually taught a formal tutorial or have recorded a video for it, so I'm glad I'm getting to do that now.
Yeah.
Officially. And I think it'll make for a nice stunner of a piece once this is all put together. Believe it or not, this was one of those braids that I just picked up and started doing. It wasn't something that I had to read about, and which is very rare for me. I was like, how can I just weave this in and out and make it easy for me? And then, I mean, I guess this is probably one way to braid it, but it just, once it worked for flat mesh is what I started with, I knew I could do it with capture chain and get a whole different effect altogether. There's so many braids out there, though, that you could do.
Braiding has never been my strong suit. And when I saw you lay it out, my first thought was you were going to do like 2 strands, like a 3 braid, 2 strands over the center. But then when you did this, my mind was blown. So I'm in awe of this. I must try this too. This is cool.
I highly recommend. It's actually a lot of fun once you do like get the hang of it and stuff too. Okay, so I'm approaching the end here. So what I'm gonna do is grab my craft wire again, and I'm gonna use it to sew through those chains to hold them in place so that I can sort of, attach them to my finding there. So I'm just gonna cut a little bit off so I don't have to work off the spool. Okay, so let's see if I can do this efficiently. So I'm going to start here and I'm just going to poke my wire right through. Some of my tinsel does come out, but that's okay. And what I'm going to do is braid some of this down through to match up where it should be in line. And if some of it unbraids, that is perfectly fine, because you can definitely spread the braids out later and get it all nice and even again. Okay, and our last one here. So that looks pretty good. It's holding nice and stable as well. So at this point, I'm just going to trim a couple of the beads above where that wire is. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and shake out any of those extra little pieces and wire fuzzies, as I like to call them, out of my design there. And I want to make sure that this lines up pretty evenly. So I'm going to lay it flat on my table here, and just to make sure that it matches logo to logo on my finding, and that none of this stuff is twisted up. So to your point and advice earlier, make sure that it's just laying really well on your table, that I guess I could let that go. And, you know, measure twice, cut once sort of a deal. There we go. Okay, make sure that this is here. Make sure that's perfect. Good, good, good. Okay, so it looks like my finding is right here. So what I'm going to do is basically turn this around and then start to string these through. One chain or two chains at a time.
I love those, but I will say I do think they're a little tougher to work with, but you just have to be patient.
Absolutely, and do not be afraid to really open up the ends as well, because it just makes life so much easier, and you can always close it back up.
It's worth it.
It is so worth it. Okay, let's see here. I want to make sure that I get all those little knitted wires in, so just taking a little extra time to make sure I do that. Okay.
And then that piece of wire, that piece of craft wire through there is going to help too. That's a must.
Oh, for sure. And at some point you can definitely take it out and just kind of readjust all this stuff. My last one there came out because that's pretty loose there, so I can at this point kind of tighten this back up, as you can see. And now I think I'm ready to tighten all of it up and close up this little guy here. I just press it on the table as I'm doing this just to close it up. And then, boom, you kind of just have this lovely backing. So I'm actually going to flip my camera back to us.
You know what I call that, Nealay?
What's that?
Party in the back.
All business up front, party in the back.
Yeah. I can just see, so, you know, if you wanted to, you know, gift it to somebody, you could, you know, put your hair up and, you know, it's showing in the back, looks great in the front, both coming and going. It looks great.
Absolutely. So that, whoops, let me hold this as straight as I can. But yeah, it's just a really elegant piece. And again, just that statement piece of having that little detail in the back, I think is really fun and colorful. And as you can see, a little close up there of how I put it together. So
you crushed this challenge. Crushed it.
Yes. Deb approves. I have done the challenge, you guys.
Woo!
Done the challenge.
Bravo.
Yay! And you are wearing your beautiful piece. I gotta wear mine too now.
You know what? That goes fantastically with what you're wearing too.
I'm saying, I got the right color palette on.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, this is how it will be worn, and then that's how
Party
it looks in the back.
The back is amazing.
I love
So
it.
many
Well,
possibilities.
am very happy with my design, and I love your design. I love this challenge that you came up with. And again, for the silkies that are out there, we would love for you to take this challenge and see what you come up with. It can be simple, beautiful, small, elegant layers, or it could be something statement, big, neck mess, anything that you want. Your imagination is what you're limited to. Think beyond is all we can encourage.
Yes.
And when you do come up with this revelation or this challenge, you'll want to do this in the Silkies group. Post your design, hashtag Silver Silk Mantra. And at the end of each month that we're going to be doing this, we're going to give away some Silver Silk goodies. So you don't want to miss out on this because each post that you make counts as an entry. So we hope that you take the challenge. And Deb, are there any other tips or last minute things that you can think of to share with our group here?
I would just say, let your imagination run wild. I mean, look at these two completely different designs. Gosh, a bracelet, you could do a couple interesting earrings. There's just so many ways to layer, stack, and do multiples. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I can't wait.
Excellent. Well, we will see you for the next challenge number 3, that we'll be doing. And so we'll look forward to your post otherwise. So thanks for hanging out with us for this time. And we hope that you've learned some really great tips and techniques, and keep it creative. Mwah!
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nealay.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining me, Deb.
No problem. Thanks for having me.